Hey guys, this is Gautam here, and welcome to my channel Chocolate Coffee Conversations. This is Seriously Cinema Edition. So, as I've said before, Seriously Cinema Edition would talk about cinema and the craft of filmmaking in the most serious possible way that I know of. Don't worry, I'll still make it as fun as possible. And in this Seriously Cinema sort of a label, I am going to make contents on directors, and I'll call this as Directors Special. Lots of subheadings, right? So, this Directors Special under Seriously Cinema, which is under Chocolate Coffee Conversations, would have episodes talking about directors. And to kickstart my first episode, I am going to talk about a Tamil film director called Gautam Vasudev Menon in my first episode. One of the very influential directors in Tamil cinema. For all the 90s kids, we grew up watching his films in our prime, and a lot of influence has happened through him in our life, is what I would say. I'm wearing a kada, and I have a guitar locked up inside my closet, which I never practiced. These are all some of the traits that I try to pick it up from Gautam Menon. I'm also slightly losing my hair, so yeah, I'm there physically too in its appearance. I should still look as graceful as he is, right? I'm working towards it. So hang in there for that for now. All right. So why would I call him as an influential director? Not just because I like him, and definitely not just because we both share the common name, common first name. This is because of his particular qualities, which really inspired me and made me to respect him as a great director. So I'll list down those qualities which I feel are really important. It's something that he has followed, which is very attractive. And the first one starts with he brought in a lot of middle class lifestyle value into the filmmaking approach, right? When I'm saying about approach, I'm talking about stories, right? All his protagonists, all his stories are set in urban middle class families, right? And it's very real. The conversation that happens among the character, the decisions that the protagonist takes, or the course of event that happens in the life of the protagonist is very, very, very middle class sort of a deal. So that actually gives a sort of realism in his film, which leads to the second trait. The second important trait for him as a filmmaker is he blends in the cinema, like the over the top sort of a feel of a cinema, into realism through his films, right? He makes real films in the sense he writes real characters. He writes common characters. He writes scenes which can occur to you, me, or anybody that we know of, and he throws in a very stylistic cinematic presentation towards it. So all his films are not over the top. It's not completely unbelievable. It's not completely flashy. It's very real. The conversations are real. The emotions are real. But yet it's shown with a lot of music. It's a lot of melodrama that's been shown and a lot of good edit that happens in his films. So that's his second trait. And the third and important trait, which I actually personally envy with Gautam Menon, is he writes conversations very beautifully. He makes conversation so beautiful. And when I'm saying about beautiful conversation, I'm not talking about a boy and a girl talking, right? That's not just a beautiful conversation he writes, even though he's branded as one of the director who makes fantastic love stories and he writes women in a good way. And I'm not denying it. He does all these, but he also writes all the other characters and the conversation that happens among those characters in a very beautiful way. And it's so engaging for us to watch. So these are some of the important traits that he brings in into the filmmaking style or film in Tamil film landscape, let's put it like that, when it was not being seen at that time, right? He enters into Tamil cinema in 2001 with his first film as is Minnale, sorry. R. Madhavan's one of the career best film, and Harris Jairaz gets introduced into it as into this movie as introduced. Sorry, Harris Jairaz gets introduced to us through this movie as a music director. I'm trying to be as best of myself as possible when I'm talking to this. And the film has great songs. The film has amazing visual quality, good jokes, good scenes. I mean, it's one of the favorite films for a lot of people. It's a very profitable film. It did really well in box office, and lots of people love it, including me. I still love it. Don't get me wrong. But for me, the real Gautam Menon film starts with Kaka Kaka. Right? That's where He actually delves into his comfort zone, his zone of filmmaking, and he goes on to make some of the incredible films in his career up until Needane Punvasantam is what I feel. After that, he still has given some of the fantastic film. Again, don't get me wrong; those films are good too. But I'm not able to relate to how I used to relate with GVM. Let's put it like that. Even to Vendudan in the Decade, which is again a very successful film. A lot of people loved it. For me, it didn't really hit that right chord. I don't know why. And let's find out through this podcast. I mean, I'm trying to understand myself too in terms of how I'm seeing films or how I'm understanding films. And through my conversation, I'm also trying to convey that to my audience. And I would definitely encourage comments of any sort in any of my social media regarding this podcast from my audience, because that's when I will know that am I even resonating with you guys, or am I in a completely different parallel universe, which is sort of not that great, maybe. I'm not too sure. So, yeah, do let me know what are your thoughts when I'm talking about any of the content, and you can agree to disagree 100%. That starts a good conversation always, right? Okay. So yeah, as I said, my favorite period of Gautam Menon would be starting from Kaka Kaka until Neethanen Pon Vasantam. And in director's special, I'm going to talk about a lot of different directors, and for every director, I will make a ritual of picking 3 films out of their career, which I personally feel as it's the best, or it's the best vertical to pick to kind of judge their career, right? And for Gautam Menon, I will pick Kaka Kaka, and I'll pick Varnamayiram and obviously Needane Punvasantam as the 3 sort of epic films. And a lot of people might fight for why Vinay Tandi Varuvaya is not there, or why Vettiyadu Vilayadu is not there. I'm not denying that those are great. Those are not great films. They are great films. Don't get me wrong. They're fantastic, fantastic films. I have watched him so many times. I even love Pachekali Muthucharam. I even love Nadunisi Naigal. I don't know how many of GVM fans have watched Nadunisi Naigal. One of the fantastic film actually. I watched it in theaters where there were like probably 10 people in the theater, because it wasn't a genre for everybody. But I loved that film. So yeah, I love all his films starting from Kaka Kaka until NEPV. And after that, yeah, none of the films I'm not able to fully connect to it. Let's put it like that. But for the sake of conversation, for the sake of the podcast, I'm picking up these 3 films. All right, it's just purely simply just because of that. So the first film is Kaka Kaka, which gets released in 2003. I was in probably grade 6, something like that, or grade 5. So I watched this movie and I'm instantly hooked to this, right? And since then I watched this movie many times, and after understanding or after me trying to understand filmmaking as I'm trying to understand now, I'm trying to ask myself like, okay, why did you like this film when you were a kid, right? What is so special about this film that you actually instantly got hooked into? Because I was like mad about this film, and I have watched it probably 5 6 times even when I was young. I got a print and I've put it in my computer. A pirated print, and I've put it in my computer, and I've watched it so many times, right? It's not just because of the songs or whatever, because I used to watch the scenes, especially the first 15 minutes where the boys gets introduced, the team is get set, and they have this that scene. Those scenes are perfect, right? When they have all these dialogues like நாங்க 4 பேர் டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்ல எங்களை இளங்கண்டுன்னு சொன்னாங்க. These are, sorry if somebody is listening who are not Tamil, these are Tamil lines. I hope that everybody has watched Kaka Kaka who are listening to it. I'm sure if not, definitely go and watch that film, because it's one of the best in Tamil cinema, let's put it like that, and even in GVM's career. So in that film, he does a lot of research, right, behind the films. Like when I read about it, he has done a lot of research going to the police academy, trying to keep it real, trying to keep the real characteristics of cops, right? How they behave with their friends, how do they hang out, like what are their tastes, what are their conversations, how do they dress up when they are not dressing up as cops, right? What are the, because up until then, when you watch a cop movie, which is not a new genre for Tamil cinema or Indian cinema, you see this, great guy, a big star playing as a cop, and he's undefeatable, and he's chasing gangsters after gangsters, and finally something wrong happens to him. Maybe he gets a little setback, and then he comes back fiercely and he wins over. Like, that's the regular format. But in Kaka Kaka, if you look at it, it's it does has those scenes, like, because there is lots of gangs that gets chased, but how does it occur? How is the approach that happens? What are the setbacks within um, bureaucracy or within department, and what happens to the personal life of a guy? How does he take up love? What would be two matured people when they are falling in love will have a conversation? Like, these are some of the fresh perspectives that Kaka Kaka has brought in to us, especially, what I would say. And again, one of the greatest editor of Tamil cinema gets introduced through Kaka Kaka. Gautam Menon has this knack of choosing some great technicians, actually. I think that begins with his favorite Maniratnam, who does that often, quite often. He picks up some of the greatest technicians and he actually introduces some of the greatest technicians to the industry too. So Gautam Menon does the same too. He picks up Anthony, who, by the way, has edited this film in a very amazing fashion. Especially, I think it all kickstarted with this song that he edited for Gautam Menon. He just edited it as a sample, right? Where, the song between Surya and Jyotika when they are going in a jeep. Everybody knows the song. I don't even have to name them, but that's one of the stylistic song that you can see in Indian film history. Let's put it like that. It's a really, really great song. Now, to give another comparison, if you want to really, after listening to this, you're like, okay, so what's the big deal? I mean, Kaka Kaka, you say all this, but this can be done to any films. Like, why is this a different thing, right? Why Kaka Kaka is what Kaka Kaka is? If you wanna have a reality check towards it, go watch Hindi movie called Force by John Abraham. It is basically the same story, right? They got the rights of Kaka Kaka and they remade it in Hindi as Force, and that is also a good movie. I'm not denying it. It's a good movie to watch. It's a decent gig, but that is a typical Indian film, right? When you get a story and we have to make a typical Indian film with all the masalas, all the over the top action sequences and hero glorifications and stuff, you make a Force. But when you get into sensibilities and when you're trying to be true to your source material and you're making a film which is like very real, cinematically real, you make Kaka Kaka. Let's put it like that. All right. And no offense to all the fans who love Force. Force is a good movie. I'm not denying it. It is a good movie. I'm just giving a comparison of what happens, right? Both of them did well on box office. So the producers are happy. So it's not something that you have to even think about, right? That, oh, this movie runs and this doesn't. Both of them ran very well, right? But they address a separate set of audience. So yeah, again, coming back to Kaka Kaka, with that, he enters into the cinema with a bang of his own style. And then he went on to make some of the great, great films for sure. And the next film that I'm going to talk about is a film that it's very tough for me to say that as a film because I see that as a Bible of my life. And I refer to that as a Bible of my life to a lot of people. Almost everybody who's close to me, who knows me personally, will know that Varna Mayram is the greatest inspiration for me in my life, right? But I'm not going to talk about how much I love the film or what I love the film. Why is this a Bible and stuff for me in this podcast? Because I'm trying to stick to purely filmmaking aspect when I'm talking it. So it'll be very technical. I'll try to go as technical as possible to understand why the film is really good, right? Apart from me just personally liking it, because I happened to see that in 2008 when I was entering into college. And all of you guys would have a film like that in your life, which will trigger you the most, right? During your formative years, that starts with what? From your age 19 to 25, you'll have this one movie that you'll watch and you are stuck with that movie forever, right? So for me, it was that movie. So it was a serendipitous thing. I do agree with that. But more than that, as a film itself, Varna Mayram is fantastic. And that is the zone that I'm trying to talk about now. So Varna Mayram is this coming up of an age film of a guy, right? And his father recently passes away, and he hears that news, but he can't go because he's in a mission, and he is trying to think about his father. And by trying to think about his father, he's also thinking about his own life, right? How his life got progressed, and that the thought itself is so amazing and so fresh because usually coming up of an age film is generally strictly to the protagonist's character, right? They follow the storyline follows the character of the protagonist. They'll have influences here and there, but to have a constant influence as a father throughout the film was pretty new when Varnamayiram came by, right? And he shows glimpses of his father, right? It's not like the father is extensively in that film. It's only glimpses, but the glimpses of the father's character is written so well that you actually instantly get hooked to that person, right? And then he carefully places his father. When I'm talking about he, it's Gautam Menon. So Gautam Menon carefully places the father's character, which is the Krishnan character in that movie, in a certain pacing that you don't miss him too much. He's not away from the story too much, but he's also not taking up a lot of space. This story of Varnamayiram is about the protagonist and whose name is Surya, right? Which is played by Surya, obviously. So it is still the story of Surya, but the verticals that GVM chooses to place Krishnan's character is very methodical, right? Krishnan's character enters inside the movie whenever there is a need to that character, right? Initial formative years of Surya's character, the father character is shown a lot. Then once the story actually kicks in about Surya, father only enters in key areas where actual help is needed for Surya or actual influence is needed for Surya. And again, it has such a middle class quality, a real life situational quality of what happens to a guy's journey in a middle class family is shown in a very, very, very fantastic way. One another thing that he does in that movie is he tries to give reasons for Surya to be a good person, right? Even though Surya's character has lots of ups and downs, lots of setbacks, a major setback, one major setback which leads to some of the setbacks, still the integrity of the character is maintained well. And as I said before, that's one of the important qualities that Gautam Menon keeps in his films are when he writes these characters, be it a protagonist, be it an antagonist, he puts in a lot of integrity into that character, right? And when the character has so much integrity, you start to root to that character immediately, right? And again, Varnamayiram also has this fantastic elements that a lot of people picked up. It became so popular in the pop culture, which is not really in the hands of Gautam Menon. That's something that you can't plan. It just has to be a timing thing. But the timing really worked out for that film, is what I would say, for Varnamayiram. And one of the finest thing that I love about that film is the entire journey of Surya in that film is conveyed with lots of music. Almost every single scene will have music, which will actually induce the mood of that character of the scene. So if you happen to watch Varnamayiram next time, do give a closer look to the music bit of it, because it blends in so well that even if you just listen to the music outside the movie, you'll go into the mindset of that character and you will actually be that character. That's one of the biggest thing about that movie. And the last movie that I wanted to pick up was Needane in Ponvasandam. And why do I say Needane in Ponvasandam is a good movie? Because lots of GVM fans, lots of my friends actually hate that movie. They don't like that movie so much, and they actually consider, when I'm saying they, my friends, I'm saying. So my friends actually consider that the downfall of GVM started with Needane in Ponvasandam because he starts to repeat himself so much since that movie. But NEPV is a very tough movie to make. Let's put it like that, because it's a very character-driven film. It's also a coming up of an age, sort of a couple love story, right? It follows two characters, Varun and Nitya, starting from their probably age 10 till age 30 at least. So in the span of these 20 years, a lot happens between them as a couple. Lots of conflict happens, but none of these conflicts are over the top. None of the conflicts are obvious. None of the conflicts are external, right? There is no father saying no to a love marriage. There is no sort of a stalker or a very gangster sort of a boyfriend or a gangster sort of a person who is in love with that character. There is no external threats. There is no gang involvement. There is no like a extramarital affair kind of thing or whatever. There is no second love. There's nothing like that, right? These two characters are in love with each other, and they actually fighting with each other how a real couple would fight, right? And now by saying this, yeah, everybody knows it. Everybody who's in a relationship for at least 6 years and plus would go through every single thing that those two, Varun and Nitya's character, would have gone through in their life, right? So everybody knows it, but how to make it as a film? Because that's reality, right? And when the characters are constantly coming together and going apart, coming together and going apart, has to be cinematically conveyed, right? Visually conveyed to the audience and convince them that yes, this is happening. Yes, you have to believe it, is a very tough task. And mind it, this story was not written by Gautam Menon, right? This story was written by Gautam Menon's partner in production company called Reshma Ghatala. She wrote the story. So he picked up the story and he actually directed it, which is again another amazing facet of Gautam Menon, because it's not easy when you're not writing the film and just directing a film, especially when it's a character drama like this, where it's a character driven drama like this, right? Because you have to personally own it. But it is in the zone of Gautam Menon. It's not a completely different zone of from Gautam Menon's style. So it was fairly easier for him to do it, but still a very humongously tough task. And some of the greatest acting by all the characters. The star casting of any PV is at its pinnacle, I would say. And some of the scenes are said are shown in brilliant way, right? One of my favorite scene, which I have to talk about, is the scene where Arun character, Varun, I'm sorry. I watched Hridayam yesterday and there is Arun in it and then there is Varun in this. So I kind of got confused. Sorry about that. It's Varun, right? So Varun's character, or Jiva's character, his brother Harish will go and see Harish and the entire family of Jiva will go and visit a girl love interest, a love interest of Harish, who he thinks that he can get married to, and he invites all the parents to go and visit their parents. So that thing happens, right? So what actually happens in that scene is not shown to us, right? We only, for the camera or the story only focuses on Varun. Varun goes to a net center. He's not going to that, bridal ceremony. He's just going to, not really ceremony, I mean like just going to see the girl kind of thing. So then he goes to his internet center. He chats with Nitya, who's not in India. Then she's in a vacation somewhere in one of the abroad countries. And then, Varun comes back at night and then he meets these people, right? He meets Harish. He meets the mom, his mom, and he meets his father. And everybody will slowly give bits and pieces of what actually happened. Well, there was a sort of like a shame that happens, right? The family's been ashamed, or they have been told bad about their financial situation, and the girl's family denies the marriage, right? That's the basic outcome. But the way it's told to us, the way it's conveyed to us through these characters, right? Through Varun's conversation with these characters, and how each character kind of supports the other character, wants to make sure that the other character is good, or is consoled. Like when the father talks, the father thinks that Harish should be consoled. When Harish talks, he thinks the mom should be consoled. And when Varun talks to mom, the mom will think that the father needs to be consoled. So this is the beauty of that film, right? That entire sequence is conveyed in such a fantastic way to us. And when we see that, right, and then Varun has this wake up call that he needs to do something financially supporting that family, right? He needs to get his act together and go maybe get an IIM degree and get a good job, right? Because he needs to lift up his family financially, his responsibilities. So that entire feel is given to the audience too out of that conversation, because we root for the characters and we don't want those characters to feel bad. Right? These are some of the fantastic qualities that Gautam Menon does, where he makes us root for those characters through conversations, right? Lots of talkie, through conversations, and through their character development. So with this, I think I have talked close to 25 minutes about Gautam Menon, about filmmaking, and I can talk even further. I love talking about films. By the time most of my audience would have known it. So I hope this was an useful episode. This is just the first episode of director's. What do I name it? Director's special. I'll call it as director's special for now. So this is the first episode of it, and I'm so happy talking about Gautam Menon and his work. The next episode will have another director. I'm going to talk about a different director, and hope that is also interesting. So do leave a comment and let me know how this episode is. Let me know about the length of the episode. Let me know how effective was this episode. Was it any new? Was it even any fresh? Was it relatable for all the cine lovers who I know, all the cinephiles that I know out there who are my audience? All right. So as I always say, let's join our hands together and make this world a better place. Until I meet you guys with a new set of podcasts, this is Gautam signing off saying, you know that, Magalchi.